I guess just to get us started, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you all. I'm so excited to have you here. We have four fabulous alumni panelists joining us today, and they're going to share their journeys to entrepreneurship, as well as answer your questions. If you can come off of if you can unhide your videos, I'm sure they would love to see your faces. It's so much easier to interact with groups when you can see the expressions and whatnot. So that would be lovely. And I do know that we have the entrepreneurship class here, so I want to welcome all of those students as well. I know our panelists have expressed some real excitement to chat with you in addition to our alumni that are joining us today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to James, who is going to moderate the conversation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm trying to change the view so I can at least see all of you guys, but there we go, gallery. Oh, great looking bunch. I want to welcome you to the Entrepreneurial ship Zoom, talk through some aspects of what it means to be an entrepreneur. Personally, I've been on a pretty wild ride myself, but we have Hillary, Noah, Ari, they're all incredible. They're all VA alums, obviously, as Nicole mentioned. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to add your question to the Zoom chat. And I'll try to make sure I get that incorporated into the conversation. So to give you some quick background of myself, I left, when I was at VA, I pursued professional snowboarding, and I saw some of my friends, not at VA, but friends on the snowboarding circuit, leave to become a professional snowboarder. And they, when I visited them in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, I said, okay, where's my room? They said, oh no, we're sleeping in the car. And so I quickly said, all right, I'm going to college. And so I went to college, and it was amazing. I went to University of Denver. The importance for me was to maximize my time, because if I wasn't snowboarding, then why would I possibly want to be at school, right? But if I'm going to be at school, why not maximize my time? So of that graduating year in 2010, I was the only person to graduate with 2 degrees concurrently. Honestly, for any high schoolers going to college, look into concurrent degrees. You can get a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science in the same amount of time just by taking occasionally an extra class. And that extra class could be music or something. But if you focus all of your energy towards the things that you want, I started in business. I couldn't stand business classes. I thought they were mundane. I thought they were boring. I just couldn't connect. I didn't understand what these professors were trying to tell me in a very hypothetical way that, oh, when you're going to deal with data, it's like, okay, what data? And so I pursued a degree in English, and I met my now wife, and we've got kids, and, so I'll just throw that in there. As far as entrepreneurship, after college, I kept on snowboarding. I became, to be honest, we need to backtrack. I started my career as an entrepreneur 2002 at VA freshman year. I decided to start a small business out of my room. So I was selling soda and chips and candy. And I quickly learned that I needed to improve my security after being robbed a few times. But I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it would be lights out 10:45. Nobody's supposed to be walking around. I'd get a knock on the door, and I hushed, hey, can I get a bag of chips? Because there, if anyone's on A2 or an alumni or Jones, there's nowhere you can go to get anything. So that's where my entrepreneurial spirit really started. And then fast forward, I left snowboarding after a successful career. I got a 9-to-5 job thinking, well, I'm married now. I should really have a 9-to-5 job and support this family. And I couldn't stand it. And so to keep myself entertained, I started side gigs. I was charging Lime scooters. I was driving Uber. I was trying to, trying to do like food cart stuff and anything I could just to be entertained business wise. And when COVID hit, I just had to take a leap, and so I've started a upscale artisan pizza restaurant and a cookie shop serving beer and wine and spirits in Breckenridge, Colorado. And so what I'd like everyone to get out of this conversation with our many panelists is when I was in high school, I had no idea what it meant to become an entrepreneur. What path do you take? And I think you'll notice that every single person has a different path. There's no one way to get there. I have a weird path myself. I was driving Uber and loving it in New York City. But with that, I think I will introduce Hillary Talbott, our first panelist, and she'll be discussing redeveloping capital markets. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. I had to Google it too. Hillary, hi.
Hi, how are you guys? So first thing I want to know, what did you guys have for dinner? I was thinking about the dining hall and if you guys had chicken piccata tonight.
Oh man, that was a winner.
Oh, so good. So good. So anyway, that was my first question to everybody is what was for dinner. Before I kind of dive in, I'll go ahead and go through where I came from. And so I think first, I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that word was, but I had a lemonade stand at age 6 and knew then like that was it for me. And so I tried to be a doctor. Apparently I couldn't get over my fear of blood. And so like finally mid-college, I was like, all right, like enough is enough. Like just follow the path that you're supposed to be on. So that was going through, and I got, I minored in entrepreneurship, majored in international studies. Out of that came, I graduated in 2008. Of course, the economy tanked. So what do? I was in Lake Tahoe at the time after skiing for the Sierra Nevada College ski team for 4 years. What do you do? Well, what was the one marketable skill I had at that point? It was skiing. So I wound up teaching people how to ski and became a private ski coach. That went really, really well. So then in the summertime, I was searching for something to fill the gap. So then I started a marketing business geared to small businesses. So along the way, I kept hitting the one issue: small businesses cannot get funding. It is impossible. So anyway, struggled through 2017 with that, and then happened to go to a conference and learn about regulation crowdfunding, that they allow businesses to raise up to $5 million per business per year, which is a game changer for how we deliver capital in this country. And I'll go into as to why. So now I have a business called Sale Crowdfunding and Community Capital, and I help small businesses raise money through securities-based crowdfunding, as well as I'm working on replumbing how we deliver capital in this country, and in educating people on how you can invest locally. What does local investment look like? How to do due diligence, etc. So how to form local investment groups. So that's part 2 of what I'm doing. And then I have a project currently in stealth. Like James, it's it's maybe different than where I thought I was, but it was an opportunity that I couldn't say no to. I thought, so anyway, look for something, say mid-January, that I'll send along to the VA community a press release of what is happening next. But anyway, I'm like dying to tell you all about it, but not quite yet. So let me kind of go into the TED Talk portion. Is that okay? Or did I waste all the time already?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. And I have notes because, you know, I try and be a good student. And is there anything in particular you'd like me to cover, James?
I'm in here. I could, me, what?
That was funny.
For the sake of the students joining us, for the VA class members, I would say, you know, a lot of them probably haven't had to ever know what, you know, securing capital really does for a business, or why you would need it, etc. So I would say, yeah, start from the beginning. What does the capital provide? What does it get you?
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. So I identify as an entrepreneur. What does this mean? That every entrepreneur on this call can identify you work way too many hours. You just stop, if you stop counting at 70 a week, you're like, okay, that was good. Number two, you can't depend on a paycheck. Number three, you don't have to ask for time off on powder days. This is a super bonus in my world. And every day is different. That every entrepreneur will tell you that they are the janitor, they are the CEO, and they're everything up, down, and in between. They're leading the sales team. So in my world, every day is different as I work to replumb how we deliver capital to American startups and small businesses. So, talking about how ideas get funded. So let's face the hard facts that unless you have funding, your idea is never going to get off the ground. And the world is never going to know your name. I mean, that's just the reality of this situation. So as entrepreneurs on this call, think about the business they want to fund. Think about how it's going to get funded. It is always, when I meet young entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs, okay, how are you going to get from point A to your business scaled and money coming in? So that's the first question you always need to answer. And as an entrepreneur is, how are you going to make money? So
I'll jump in there and say that was the biggest problem I had. I went through 5 different lenders, and they all said no. And then I had to get very creative with the person selling me the building and all of my vendors providing me, you know, equipment.
right.
Yeah, you just keep getting creative.
Right. And some of you may have rich parents on this call. Some of you, for others that I was a day student. So we all know that VA day students usually do not have a lot of money. So anyway, so let's go into ways you can finance your business. Number one, you can bootstrap. This means you work a part-time job on top of starting your small business or startup, and you work even more hours. 2, you go to a bank and they're probably going to tell you no. Only 10% of loans get approved. And oh, by the way, they're going to ask you if you have collateral. What does this mean? A house or property that they can have as insurance should you not be able to pay back your loan. Oh, and by the way, if you have student loan debt, again, maybe from a place like VA, that the bank is also going to count that against you. So, okay, so if that option is out, then what is your second? So option 1, bootstrapping. Option 2, the bank. So then there's option 3. You can go to You can go to your rich uncle, friends and family, and ask for money. Okay, that might work to get you off the ground for some businesses, but what happens if your business demands more money than than what bootstrapping or your network can provide? So then you would go, the next place on the entrepreneur's journey is to go to what's known as the private market. So angel investors, venture capitalists, and beg for money. At this point, you're going to give away way too much of your business. Two, you're probably going to lose control of your dream. I mean, these are the realities we face. Oh, and by the way, unless you're a white male located in Silicon Valley, the chances of you getting funded are somewhere in the range of 2%. So this is where I come in. So back in 2016, regulation crowdfunding came into effect, which that rule allows you to create a loan or an equity offering. So think of it as selling shares in your business, and sell it to the general public. Now you can raise up to $5 million through securities-based crowdfunding. And so what this has done is it's starting to democratize how we deliver capital around the US. And the community decides who is fundable and who is not. So I help startups I put together their offering and then market it to their community, as well as I educate communities on how to create local investment networks, how to do diligence, and invest within their local community.
I think that's a good jumping off point for one of the crowdsourced questions. What investing challenges have you found that are possibly unique to Vermont? Have you dealt with any communities in that regard?
So I'm in Santa Cruz, California right now, and I have not done any offerings in Vermont as of current, but I'm told that the local investment landscape is actually pretty robust there compared to most states, because people are so used to tight-knit communities in Vermont. Yeah. But I can't point to any offerings that have happened there or any businesses that have been founded.
Gotcha. So I know you started your marketing business, and then in dealing with those customers, you realize that, wow, they just don't have enough money to fund their dreams. Any success stories that you really, like this one person just, they did a great job marketing themselves, marketing their business, or maybe they did a good job of convincing investors among the community?
Yeah, so where we are now is I helped a fishing boat that was 55 years old that needed that needed 50,000 plus to do a refurbish so it could start sustainably fishing Monterey Bay again, which is the bay off Santa Cruz. If people probably don't know where that is. Anyway, so we raised that money from 60 investors, and the boat is pretty close to getting finished so it can start sustainably being fished again. And then last spring, I closed a $525,000 loan to build affordable housing here in the Bay Area.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thanks. Thanks. And then I have several others in the pipeline.
Awesome. And I don't mean to rush. I'm just following the schedule.
Sorry, I talked too much.
No. I thought it was very informative. It's nice to know that there's, you've obviously got banks to go to, but that's not your only source of funding. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this conversation is that the funding community is getting more and more unique and sort of community based. So that's great.
Right, and if you're focused around environmental, social government, clean energy, technology, renewables right now, impact investing, there is so much money pouring into the space. It's insane. I just was having dinner last night with an investor who has funded billions with a B of projects throughout the West in the
Incredible.
renewable energy space, which is insane. And he's in a pair of holy jeans.
Jeez.
You never would know in 100 years.
Yeah, incredible. Hillary, thank you so much.
Sure.
I'll probably do a roundup question at the very end with each of you guys, but I'll let you think about it. So at the end, let us know what would you say to someone that's considering a entrepreneurial path. So think about that, and we'll get that at the end.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Hillary. And next up, we have Noah. He is class of '93. Noah, welcome to the panel.
Well, thanks for having me, James.
Yeah, you can thank Nicole.
And thanks, Nicole.
Noah, give us some background. What would you say? What inspired you to become an entrepreneur? What were the your projects that maybe you've got a few that maybe didn't make it, but some obviously did. So yeah, I'm curious.
So let's see. So before I begin, I want to just say, I think especially to the students that are on this, that for me, VA was one of the most sort of pivotal times in my life. I grew up in New York, and I'd been kicked out of one high school and not asked back to another. And basically, like, the only sensible thing I liked to do that was legal was ski. And I had the sense that a small community where I could be outside and ski could be good for me. And luckily, my family had the resources, and they let me go to VA, and somehow I got in, which is a different story. So I think the sort of small community, the small sort of caring community, and the teachers were really, really impactful. My favorite teacher, who actually passed away in 2019, Seamus Daly, I talk to him every year on his birthday since I graduated, which is a long time ago. So I just wanted to sort of call that out, that it's a pretty incredible place. I think when you're there, it can be challenging, and it sometimes you can sort of lose sight of the bigger picture. But I wanted to mention that. So I think like James, like you, and like Hillary, and my guess is like Ari, and is that like entrepreneurship is just kind of like within us. Like, we've always done entrepreneurial things. I'll admit that earlier on, some of them may have been like less legal than other ones. But I'd always, I'd always kind of wanted to create things, and I think as I got older, I just got more ambitious, which I'm not necessarily sure was the best thing. But so I'll do like a 1-minute chronology, and then I'll probably dig in a little bit on Stitcher, which is the company I'm sort of known for founding, and maybe talk a little bit about lessons there. But I would rather I'd rather field questions, so I'll be
Yeah.
So I started out my career on Wall Street. I had actually initially intended to be a ski bum, but I don't know, like sometime during, so I was like a ski instructor in college, and I don't know, sometime senior year, like the rat race kind of kicked in, or something kicked in, and I wanted to get sort of business fundamentals background. So I asked some people, and they said, go to Wall Street, do an analyst program. So I was a fixed income trader for a couple of years. I just didn't find it fulfilling. And so I quit. I rode my motorcycle cross country. I slept in a tent for a while. I landed in San Francisco, and I joined StubHub when it was very early. It's a ticket company that we grew and eventually sold for a good sum of money. And that time, the time when I was at StubHub, really sort of clarified for me that I wanted to do these sort of high risk tech startups where there's like a really low probability of success, but you sort of have a really big vision, and hopefully you can get some money and kind of go after it. So I ended up going to Wharton for business school, which gave me a couple of years to focus on sort of coming up with ideas. I then worked in management consulting. And then I started a podcast just for fun, like with a comedian, and basically realized that like there was sort of a much bigger thing. And this was before the iPhone. And I basically decided I was going to try to revolutionize radio by starting Stitcher. And so I raised a bunch of money. It was sort of the original like iPhone podcast app. Is used by millions of people, which is wonderful. I ran it for 8 years. It was also super stressful, and I raised a lot of money, more money than we ended up getting for the business. So that can also sort of be a cautionary tale. I've since been working more on the investing side. I'm an angel investor, and I work for Amazon and kind of run their seed investing business development practice. And I'm actually about to start another company. So we'll see how the next one
awesome.
goes.
That's great. Now, in your experience, what would you tell someone that is interested in starting a business? Obviously, you've been through many, and I think that's one of the big takeaways here is you'll start one, but the bug never gets itched. The itch never gets itched. You know what I mean? Like you just want to keep on coming up with ideas. So the question is, go ahead. I see you.
Yeah, I think so. I think like, look, if you have a job that you like and it's stable and like you're enjoying it, like by all means, like stay in the job, because it's a little bit crazy to go out and start something, but there's sort of different levels of risk. People have different appetites for risk. Some businesses are less risky than others. I just like, I'm not good if I'm bored, and I am really ADHD, and so if I don't have a bunch of pressure, like I basically don't accomplish anything, and it's sort of a similar trait among many entrepreneurs. So so knowing that about myself, I realized that I needed to start something that I considered pretty significant. And the 8 years of running Stitcher, I was never bored, and now I spend my days talking to CEOs and of startups, and that's also really enjoyable. So I think it's just a bug, and it's either in you or it isn't.
Now, how did you deal with, and forgive me, Carly, I'm changing your question a bit. How did you deal with, dealing with risk? Taking on the risk of negative returns, taking on the risk of a new startup, losing money.
So I guess a couple of things. One, to tie back to my favorite teacher, who was not my ski coach, but he used to tell me that like if I was not, like he would ask me after practice if I crashed or not. And if I didn't crash, he basically said like you're not pushing yourself hard enough. Like you need to crash to kind of be learning. And I sort of took that into life. not risk averse, although I've sort of become more risk averse as time has gone on. But you know, for better or for worse, I've had somewhat of a safety net, which is that, you know, when I was running Stitcher, I would always say to myself, worst case scenario is like I move home with my parents, and my dad had this like barn with like an upstairs like apartment, and I could just move in there and like live in the woods. And you know, so and a lot of people don't have that, and so that you know, that sort of gives a different kind of pressure. But for me, I would always look at the worst case scenario and say, like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? I could lose everybody's money, you know, it could be like a big public failure. Am I willing to accept that? Yeah. So that's how.
Awesome. And then last two questions. A quick explanation of angel investors and how they fund businesses and what do they get out of it?
Yeah, so angel investors, at least my definition of it, and in Silicon Valley, you basically invest very early in a startup, and so a success rate is like, you know, one out of, if you're lucky, 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 25. Like most of them don't make it, and you know, 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 25 like makes it really big. Then one makes it really big, then it works, and if it doesn't, then you know, you lose everybody's money, or your own money. So it's pretty, you know, it's sort of pretty high stakes, but I enjoy. There's just a lot of young folks with really amazing ideas and large ambition, and I want to sort of help them and be along for the journey. And I also know how hard it is. So yeah, that's an angel investor.
For anyone that's curious or wants to read a really capturing book, Tony Hsieh's Delivering Happiness is a great book regarding the founding of Zappos and how he was an angel investor, I think, in Zappos.
He was. He was.
So, awesome. No, any closing remarks?
Not really. I would say if you have the bug, like just do it. And like, you know, worst comes to worst, it doesn't work out. Nobody ever says that they regret trying to start a business. But also just do something that you're passionate about. Something that you really enjoy. I think that, like, because that's what you're going to be doing all day long. And so, and you're going to be working really hard, like Hillary said. So it's best that it's something that you enjoy. Awesome.
Well, thank you, Noah. I appreciate that. Next up, our last panelist, Ari, 2013 Vermont Academy graduate. She is she has a tattoo shop, which is amazing. And it's actually a really cool concept. Ari, fill us in.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be brought in to the tattoo shop by my best friend who I met in college. Do you want me to do like a backstory like everybody?
Yeah.
Okay,
Give us a backstory. Tell us all about yourself.
Okay, so I went to VA. I graduated in 2013, and then I went to Nichols College. I was really into criminal justice. I wanted to be in the FBI once upon a time. I have a dual degree in criminal justice and psychology. I use a lot of psychology every day, but besides that, Nichols is a business school. So my core classes that I had to take to graduate are really what I use every single day. After I bartended in college just to make, quick money, I realized I can make about $1,700 in a weekend bartending in Boston. So that was really what drove me to that kind of thing. I really liked the money aspect, but I was sitting down with the director of sales for Lord Hobo Brewing, and I asked him for a job. And he was just sitting at my bar, and he actually gave me a job for Lord Hobo. And I quickly moved up from just a host in the tap room to events manager to marketing manager in under 2 years.
Wow.
So I was in charge of 18 states and 10 countries. I planned a majority of the events, and that's pretty much how I got a lot of my knowledge in marketing and, direct sales with everybody. I am a really big people person. I love talking to people, and I knew that that's really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I knew that I never wanted to do a 9 to 5. And if I could wear a baseball hat or a knit beanie any day, like I would also want to do that. And so that's really where I put my life going. I wanted to be around people and just focus on that. So when I had the opportunity to join my best friend, who I actually met in preseason of college, they were a soccer athlete and I played field hockey. So we've known each other for 10 years, which is pretty impressive. And so they opened the shop in 2020, and I came in about 8 months later, and in under a year, we decided to go from 1,700 square feet to 3,200 square feet.
Wow.
We're one of the biggest shops in Massachusetts, and we're queer owned. So it's huge. I'm here now, so looking
Incredible.
at it, and yeah, it's an amazing shop, and we love our clients. That's pretty much what everything's about. Getting tattoos at a young age, you have the uncomfortable experience of not knowing, or you're going into an unknown thing, and it's an alteration to your body that lasts forever. So growing up in that, we wanted to change that whole thing. So every client that comes here, they want to come back. And like, we know everybody here and we see them all the time. They just come in, play pool. I play pool all day. It's like the best job ever. I talk to people and we drop merch and I hang out with artists. It's awesome.
It's incredible. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can agree that talking and communicating with people was something that they just love to do.
Yeah.
Maybe not for every entrepreneur, but I know for me, I wanted to start a restaurant because I can't get enough of delivering food to customers. I can't get enough talking to them about the process. And I'm sure it's the same with you and the tattoo parlor. So describe your process in regards to maybe not opening the shop, because your friend opened the shop, right?
Yeah. So when I was the landlord who owns Main Street, we're right in Hudson. So anybody in Massachusetts, definitely come hang out. Our landlord owns a couple units and he was talking to me about right next door. So I kind of dropped a hint that we should expand. And after, a little coaxing, we decided to, and then I was offered as we were expanding to come a part of the business. So after being here for 5 months, just branching out marketing wise, bringing our followers up on Instagram, using every sort of social media outlet that we have. We create all our own merch here, stuff like that. We decided to expand and I was a part of it. And I never thought my life would be like this. I never thought I can't draw a circle, and I was never in art classes. I'm not even allowed to hang up photos at the shop because it would probably turn out crooked. So it's amazing that I'm a part of this, but it's where my life was meant to be.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think I can commiserate. When I started the restaurant, I came down with COVID and I lost my sense of smell entirely for about a year and a half. It's just starting to come back. And so all my friends would say, you can't even smell your food. What are you doing? So you can't draw a circle. I can't smell food.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for someone that's going to start a business, what would you say are some, maybe things that they should be aware of, whether it's, managing money or managing people? I don't want to lead you. So
honestly, any one of us up here, you really have to take a look at yourself and do a lot of self growth and know what works for you. And my style is different than other people's styles, and you have to know what drives you. I knew what I didn't want, and I knew what I was good at, and I could keep going towards that. And you just have to be able to know yourself, and everything else will fall into place. And just don't say no to any opportunity, like, at all. Even if you don't think that you're going to be at this job forever, you don't know what it could. I started as a host at Lord Hobo, so I didn't know what it become, but I knew I wanted to be in the beer industry.
Yep. Yep. That's awesome. I think I think most business owners can agree that they'll tend to latch on to what they're really good at. I'm great at talking to customers. It sounds like you are as well. But then when it comes to actually doing things within the business, building out a restaurant, I'm not an engineer, but I can assure you, for anyone that wants to start a business, there are people that you can find that can do those things for you, and all you have to do is pay them. So I was trying to do everything on my own, every single thing. Like, okay, no, I've got to do it. Of trying to own everything. The more you can rely on it, build that community of people around you, I think that makes all the difference in starting a small business.
Oh yeah. Our style here is like, we just wanted the walls, and whatever came from inside, like, that's what we wanted. We wanted the talent, the love, the safe space for everybody. We wanted that, and it just grew. And I painted a lot of walls when we expanded, and I repainted walls. And once the color was changed, I repainted it again. And then we hired a lot of people to do that. And so you always rely on other people, and also keep those connections, because you never know when you need them again.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as your business, and this is maybe a kind of pointed question, how has the pandemic directly impacted your business model? I mean, with Hillary, she's helping crowdsource funding for small businesses. For Noah, he's got the podcasts as well as other endeavors. What has the pandemic been like for the tattoo industry?
The pandemic's been rough, but artists have made every adjustment. I mean, it's their livelihood. They're always drawing, they're always selling art. I believe that the pandemic actually helped us a lot, because we went from being walk-ins where, you flood a tattoo shop and you get something off the wall, to appointments. And I built a website that you go to blackrosetattoo.com, you can see what artists we have, and it goes directly to their scheduling. So instead of you DMing with an artist or walking into a shop and maybe getting in today or something like that, now it's in your hands. You tell us what works with your schedule, and it goes from there. Also cleanliness. I mean, the tattoo industry has to be very, very clean and neat. And I've learned a lot. I did not know anything about this industry. I'm learning more and more every day. But it's very important to be clean. And I believe that COVID helped just formulate like a new plan. Like, we can still operate, just go a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, trying to evolve with you're really evolving with your customers. You're not necessarily evolving, yourself. Maybe you want to change the business entirely, but it sounds like you evolved with your customers to provide them something that they were looking for. So they didn't know.
About convenience. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. Ari, any closing remarks? I do have some follow-up questions for the whole group, and we can go that way if you like.
No, if anybody's in Hudson, we're best Main Street in America. We're actually in top 25 right now. So vote for Hudson, and also come hang out at the shop.
Awesome. So opening it up to Q&A. Now that everyone's listened in to our panelists and you've gotten some idea of their backstory, feel free to send Nicole some questions in the chat. I'll open it up to Hillary, Ari, Noah, jump in. I think this is actually a great question. I don't think we didn't talk about it with all of you, but what are some ways that we all built the community, quote unquote, the community that helped us get to where we are, and found the people to fill in the gaps of what you either don't know what to do or don't know how to do it, or finding services that you need.
Yeah,
You don't want to.
I can take that. It's actually, that's something I've been thinking a lot about recently. It was my job, and I think the job of anybody as an entrepreneur who's like the boss and has people working for them and stuff, is like, it's pretty hard and lonely. Like you can't, you sort of have to be a cheerleader and positive all the time. So after a while, I found I basically started a peer group of fellow sort of, venture-backed startup CEOs. And it was, it was pretty life-changing to be able to sort of, commiserate with sort of my compatriots, and also be able to, learn things from them about leadership. And so I've since just started a sort of a bunch of peer groups for founder CEOs to be able to sort of give back. And so I think that that's been the most important thing. And if you are sort of striking out on your own, having a peer group of fellow crazies who are doing the same thing, I think is pretty useful.
Absolutely. I'll give my perspective. I went from a 9-to-5 job, designing and selling women's lingerie in New York City, which I don't know how to design, but I've got a team of people that know how to do it. I since left that and purchased the building that the restaurant's now in, and it was under construction. And suddenly I had to design a kitchen. I had to come up with a menu, get all the equipment. I'd never been through any of this, though I knew I could figure it out with enough time and with enough, elbow grease. I hate that term, but honestly, the other term I hate most is networking. I can't stand the term networking because it really is it's just a way of saying, just asking questions. Hey, do you know somebody that knows how to do this? Or trying to, stay in touch with people that might be useful down the road. That sounds bad, but networking is supremely important for any endeavor to start a business, especially brick and mortars. I think those need the biggest group of community. So for me, it just came down to asking. I found one supplier and then asking that supplier, hey, do you know of anybody that does custom, table designs? Oh, I worked with this one person 5 years ago, but they might not be in business. That person's not in business, but then they lead you down another road of 8 different people that you can talk to, and it just snowballs. And that snowballing effect is really what you're looking for to try and build that community, at least in my experience. So, Hillary or Ari, any thoughts on community and how to build it to help start your business?
I often say that I should run for Hudson Town Mayor. I know everybody on our street. I think it's very important to not only, I try to introduce myself to everybody that comes into the shop, even if I'm in the back, just to create those relationships. And the same, like you were just saying, when we were expanding, we reached out to our clients first to see if anybody had their own business that we could give money to in order to build what they would be a part of anyway. So all of those little connections can help in so many ways. And you never know, like, who does, 3D printing in their spare time, like there's always some little thing that you can use.
Yeah, I think you touched on something really important, and this speaks to the Vermont Academy. What I think makes Vermont Academy so unique is that it's such a small community, but it's very local. The local community around your business, especially if you have a brick and mortar. Hillary, I'm sure you're in the same boat with trying to do local crowdsource funding for capital investment. The local community is one of the best ways you can, find people. There are so many small businesses, it's ridiculous, and I didn't realize how many there are until I was actually in the thick of it and trying to find them. So, yeah. Hillary, any comment in your regard?
Yeah, so for me at this stage, I would definitely, if you're going in the venture category in particular and potentially butting up against regulations, and state and federal laws, then you need to make sure you have the right resources to get you through and around those humps. So that was when I was working on when I was working on the concept for sale, community capital, and working within SEC regulations, I had happened to volunteer with a friend who helps startups, who's a lawyer who is also a broker dealer with the SEC, which means he helps startups raise money. And he happened to had just closed Tesla's C round of funding. And so anyway, this is somebody I volunteered with who I definitely credit for getting me off the ground and around the hump. So I would definitely recommend that. And then as an entrepreneur, recognizing that you don't know how to do a lot of things, and being the new kid on the block is okay, and asking is okay, because once you put down the barrier and be look, person X, Y, and Z, I don't know what I'm doing. For example, in the last couple months, I've taken a deep dive into valuations. So how much is a business worth? And I've been working with a friend who worked at Goldman Sachs for 100 years and then World Bank, and he's talked me through the process. So last week, we were looking at a strategic investment into an entrepreneur, female from New Orleans, and an SF-based VC group gave her a valuation of about half what her business was worth. And I went through the valuation process, which is an art versus a science, and came up with a number that professionals backed. And I was yes, thank God for these people in my network that you had, sort of no idea that existed.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend that. And yeah.
Yeah. I can't agree any more in saying that letting your guard down and asking questions is the biggest attribute you have to getting what you need to do completed. And I'll probably take 2 more questions, and then I'll finish with that last question I mentioned. Knowing what you know now about your businesses and the journey you've taken, is there anything you would have done differently from the get-go?
No.
Yeah, I think the answer for me is no as well.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in regards to life journey, I don't think that I would change anything. And that goes for building out the shop or in any journey that I'm currently on. Everything happens for a reason, but you also learn the entire way. So every wrong decision that you made, you're not going to make it again, or you might make a variation of it, but then that's 2, and you're probably definitely not going to make it a 3rd time. So I want to change. I wish, I don't have all those school loan debts, but, all of that helps in a variety of ways, but I definitely would not change a thing.
Awesome. And then what are some key first steps to focus on when you're starting a business? And this question is difficult because if it's brick and mortar versus a software platform or something else, It's different for all, but any key first steps, maybe just generalizations of, things that you really focused on? For me, it was staffing. I knew I didn't know how to, I know how to make really good pizza, but I didn't know how to make the best pizza. And I'll bring this up in the next question as well. When you're the best, people take notice. And so I immediately started reaching out to chefs in New York City, and I DM'd them on Instagram, and I asked them questions. And most of the time it was COVID and the restaurants were shut down and they're panicking. And they said, "No, kid, get out of here." But there were a few of them that actually became mentors, and I still talk to them to this day. So, yeah, I think just, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it was customer testing, and like figuring out how you're going to make money and at what price point, and making sure your early customers, if you're not in a high, that your early customers are really happy and can turn into your brand evangelists, makes a huge difference. And having partners that can refer you in, because as an entrepreneur, you can't afford a 7 to 9% marketing budget. I mean, it's just not in the cards. So you really need to get good at guerrilla marketing, and using what's free and available to grow.
Yeah, and actually that is a great segue into our next question regarding social media and how important that is for startups or for different business models, etc. Any thoughts on that?
Social media is huge. I was actually paid in college by my mom to stop using Instagram. And she was like, it's not, like, it's bad, blah, blah, blah. And now Instagram and Twitter and everything, that's how businesses grow. It also can connect you. I mean, as much as TikTok is taking over the world, you're instantly connected with somebody across the country. And it's all because you have a very narrow, commonality. So that's what you can use to grow in any aspect. And you can monitor trends and, monitor your Instagram, see what posts are doing well, what time of day. It all breaks down to a science. And you can use that just to grow your business exponentially in any way.
Yep. I use social media. I'm terrible at it. I'm awful. I don't use Instagram, or I don't use Facebook. I use Instagram. Don't use TikTok. But Instagram has been really helpful in customer engagement as far as keeping them aware. With restaurants right now, I am running a bare bones staff, and I've been trying to hire for 8 months now, and I just can't find people. And it's so difficult. And so our hours are constantly fluctuating, which would normally drive anyone pre-pandemic through the roof just to go to a restaurant to see that's closed. And so we've been using social media a lot to engage with our regulars and let them know, hey, sorry, someone got sick. And that one person is the one person that will make your pizza. So we're closed. But yeah, social media has been important in that regard for me too. Awesome. So to wrap up, I guess, what would you say to someone who is considering an entrepreneurial path?
Jump. Just do it.
Yeah.
You'll land on the ground. It might hurt. You might get bruised, but you'll be fine.